The results that they just recently announced are on a deposit that they call the Quinnica. It just reaffirms the potential for copper and gold mineralization in the area. I think the timing is really, really good, Stein. We're seeing a lot of interest in copper companies. The game plan here is go public over the next 6 months and raise that capital for a drill program next summer. So check our landing page, altonresources.com, if you would like to participate in our current financing.
Today we're having a chat with Anthony Balme, Chairman, and Rick Mazur, Director of Alton Resources. Jens, it's great to have you on the channel again. Rick, first a word to you. You guys have not been sitting idle since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, we've just completed an IP program. That's a geophysical technique that we use to identify copper porphyry deposits. The results have just come in. We're processing that data, but the initial results look good. I think we've identified some areas that we could consider for drilling next season, next summer.
Exciting stuff. And Anthony, the word to you. I would love for you to give a short pitch of really what Alton Resources is all about before we dive into the history, the project, and so much more today.
Right. Well, it's something we set up some years ago, and I suppose it had a quiet period up until recently. But there's strong evidence of copper and gold there. We have some good readings of both. With the recent rise in the gold price, we would estimate that gold will be much the strongest element in the deposits, and there is now much greater appetite for funding these projects in British Columbia. The turn in the market a few months ago, so there's a lot of activity going on in the north and the south of BC.
Thank you, Anthony. And perhaps you could outline really what the history is with the project, because it's you guys have done quite a bit of work on it.
Well, the known history goes back to about 50 years when a subsidiary of Freeport-McMoRan drilled the copper porphyry, but failed, unfortunately, to assay it for gold. So we don't know how much gold there was in there, but it's pretty clear from all the work that we've done that there is gold in the copper. So it's a question, it varies, the proportion varies quite a lot from one spot to another. And then since then, a fair amount of work has been done. I mean, one company did some drilling about 20 years ago, really aiming at the gold. But in the end, we feel this is more of a combined exploration, targeting both copper and gold. We think that's what will make it add up better.
Excellent. And talking about your project, Rick, recently one of your neighbors, Northwest Copper, found some quite interesting intercepts, 44 meters at 2.81 grams a ton gold. That was relatively close to your project, was it not?
Well, that's correct. Our property is completely surrounded by Northwest Copper. The results that they just recently announced are on a deposit that they call the Quinnica. It just reaffirms the potential for copper and gold mineralization in the area. I'm just more excited about the results that we got from our geophysical surveys this summer. Just waiting for the IP inversions to come through, but the raw data looks very good. We've got some good targets to follow up on for a drill program. We're also going to be doing extending a magnetometer survey over the property, because it does appear that there's an extension to the south. So we want to cover some ground on the southern end of our property there to make sure that we have a complete data set to move forward with the project.
Always great to hear geologists be enthusiastic about IP surveys on their project. Perhaps we can talk about the wider trend for a second in which Alton is located. Of course, there's other mines in this region, porphyry-style deposits. What is really the potential here, the blue sky potential that you're trying to find?
The blue sky, well, okay, I'll mention it, yes. These projects tend to turn out to be very large, so the aim of the junior explorer is to outline a significant deposit and get to a stage where it can bring in a deep-pocketed major. And the residual amount of the value for the junior it can be extremely significant at times. But something like Mount Milligan, I'm not quite sure what the actual numbers were, but it probably cost $1 billion plus to build. They had a few problems too, which put the costs up. But the good thing is the Mount Milligan owned by Centera is now expanding and developing a mine further to the north in the same trend. They incidentally were in the stands and ran into a few problems, so they're focusing on the safer jurisdiction of British Columbia now.
Yeah, that's a great point, Anthony. Of course, British Columbia is one of the greatest regions in Canada to be looking for a mine and potentially build one in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, there are obviously a few permitting hurdles, and you've got to establish good relationships with the local people and the First Nations. You need infrastructure, you need access. We think our access is pretty good. For the work we've done recently, we've used a helicopter which saves a great deal of time. But there are two logging roads going onto our property for a reasonably modest cost. Those can be reopened. But it's probably not worth doing until we're sort of doing a 2 or 3 week program rather than a week's program.
Well, definitely great to know that those options are available to lower that cost of exploration.
Yeah, and the Lorraine deposit, that's an important correlative for us. We've hired Paul Baxter, a well-known, very good geologist with good BC and Yukon experience, former tech geologist, to do the work on our property. And from his field work that was completed at the beginning of this program in June, he sees a lot of similarities geologically to the Lorraine deposit, and we see that as a positive as well. So with the limited geological work done by Paul and the geophysical surveys that we've just completed, we think we're getting ourselves a really good porphyry copper gold target to evaluate with a drill next year.
Yeah, because those IP surveys and other geophysical tests that you've run are really trying to narrow down this drill target to try to make the most of your first drill hole, which you plan to, of course, raise capital for.
That's right. So the game plan here is to go public over the next 6 months and raise that capital for a drill program next summer.
Yeah, it's a very exciting target, of course, with that neurology in the area, a well-established trend in the right jurisdiction. It's safe on that sense, infrastructure in place, very exciting. Talking about those going public strategy, Anthony, how are the talks going to take this vehicle public?
Yes, I think the route will be through the Canadian exchanges. So our plan is to do an RTA. So we're in discussion with 1 or 2 companies, and hopefully in the next 4 or 5 weeks we should be able to bring something to shareholders on that front.
And of course, what's exciting about an RTO, a reverse takeover, is that those things can move very quickly, right? Once you have a letter of intent in place.
Absolutely. Well, these companies, see, our market cap is in the region of only 1 million Canadian, and we thought by the time we go public, you would expect to be looking at least 5 million, if not 6 million. Obviously, with dilution, it's not as if it's going to go up from 1 to 6 million without putting a lot of money in, but there's still plenty of upside. And as you can see, if you're successful then on your exploration program, the sky's the limit.
I think the timing is really, really good, Stein. We're seeing a lot of interest in copper companies, the producers, the developers now, and we believe that the explorers are going to be the next one to catch a bid from investors. So I think this is a real opportune time for us to get the company organized, get it public, and get it drilling next summer.
Yeah, those are some very exciting catalysts for a potential investor. And of course, Anthony, you referenced something there. You're raising capital at about $1 million market cap. If you look at your peers in the gold and copper space, almost everything seems to have moved from the lows. You guys have not yet.
Well, they are further advanced than us, but you can see the difference is enormous. So if we can move it forward significantly, and then have a successful exploration program next summer. The opportunity is pretty good.
Excellent, gentlemen. And of course, for anyone watching that might be interested in the Alton Resources story, of course, the company is still private. Therefore, it's showing this interesting value proposition. Like you said, $1 million market cap, potential to go to 5 to 6 with dilution in place once you go public. Interesting value proposition. How can anyone potentially reach out and participate?
Well, Stein, what's exciting about this is it's discovery stories that give you a big lift in share price and market valuation. So, yes, it's an early stage project, but all it takes is one really good drill hole and then some good follow up holes, and you've got a discovery, and then that's where people get a real lift in the share price. So, getting in at this stage right now is you're getting in at the ground floor. So check our landing page, altonresources.com, if you'd like to learn more about the company, or if you would like to participate in our current financing.
Yeah, we'll definitely leave that link in the description for anyone watching. Of course, Rick and Anthony are easily approachable. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it today. Exciting times ahead, lots of catalysts on the horizon, and best of luck.